Hello everybody, today I'm going to be doing a kind of chill, sit down, talky style video. Today I'm going to be talking about robots and AI pornography. Now, I understand that a lot of people get quite annoyed at me when I'm having to censor every other word, and I just wanted to let you guys know that the consistent heavy censoring is not because I think that those words are too bad, but because YouTube's monetization system is really, really unstable, and if I use any words, even in the context of this video, that YouTube deems to be bad, they will remove all of my money, and I really don't want that to happen. So I do apologize. If the editing is something that annoys you when my words are censored, then unfortunately this video might not be for you. I will use the word pornography and corn for not because I think that those words should be dumbed down, but because I literally have to do that. And in any other way I can, I will have to substitute the explicit words for words that YouTube won't get upset by. Now, I actually don't have a full video essay type plan for this video. I like to just sit down and talk, as you guys know. And although some people might not like that, I enjoy it and it's my channel. So yeah, here we go. My kind of interest was piqued with these robots when I saw an Instagram post sharing that now you can buy these robots that have resistance modes, aka modes. I think that's what we should all call it, you know, resistance or not willing or whatever. It's there are robots that are being made to have a mode, so you can simulate a robot. And when I saw this, first of all, I'm not going to say I was overly surprised. I think I can say I was disgusted, but not shocked, which is something I think we can all agree is a feeling that we are experiencing more and more as technology develops and society proceeds. Disgusted, but not shocked. And I thought, what's this all about? So I had a little research into it, and then I went down this rabbit hole of robots and just AI in the industry as a whole and how damaging it really is going to be. So the first thing that I noticed doing research into robots is that, and I know a lot of people are gonna be, I guess, annoyed by this, but it is merely an observation, that it is typically men trying to recreate women's bodies when it comes to robotics. Very, very rarely, in fact, never have I seen a woman present a male robot and discuss about how women are very, very lonely and therefore want to kind of have these dolls. It is primarily, if not always, men presenting these robots as something that is for the future and something that is solving male problems. I have never actually come across yet a robot that is for women, that is made by women, and that is for women loneliness, which kind of leads on to the male loneliness epidemic and the manosphere, which is something I'll get onto later. And the biggest thing that I wanted to first talk about, because I think it's the thing that stood out to me the most, was the similarities between the robot industry and the industry. They are intertwined, obviously. I don't think that would shock anybody to hear. My first findings were that the desensitization of women's bodies and what real women look like in the industry is very similar to that in the robot industry, and that we're seeing very unrealistic body types, which some people might think, Katie, come on, it's a bloody robot. But I don't think it is that simple. I don't think that can be strawmanned to be so kind of acute. Obviously, we all know that the reason why pornography is very, very dangerous and harmful to both women and men is that it presents this idea of what a real woman looks like, which is massive boobs, labiaplasty, the perfect nipples, a slim waist, and a really big butt, which, you know, is something that we have spoke about time and time again when it comes to, but to see it be replicated in the robot industry, I think, is an even weirder level of scary. These robots, you can pick different inserts that have different labia, so you can pick what labia you want your robot to have, which I think is very, very, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. So many people will know that the rise of labiaplasty due to has been absolutely ludicrously terrible. Young girls as young as 13 are inquiring about it because they think that there is something wrong with their vulva, which is deeply, deeply disturbing. And I think the industry has, well, the industry is the answer to why women are seeking out surgery for their downstairs. It is purely because of, and anybody that argues otherwise is ridiculous. What else is teaching young women that their bodies are wrong, if not the internet? We're not born to look down there and go, oh, there's something wrong with mine. Nobody does that. Okay, yes, you might look down there and think that looks a bit strange, but nobody is meant to be looking down themselves and thinking, oh, there's something wrong with that. So we know that the industry has pushed harmful body standards onto both women and men, with men, being expected to last and perform for hours, as well as to have catastrophically huge peaks. So we know that pushes bad self-image, right? And this is something that is now presenting itself in both AI and robots in the industry. Looking at some of these robots that are, by the way, I think, it goes without saying, they are genuinely purchasable. And okay, yes, to the average person, they aren't really accessible with their high price range, but these robots are a real thing that are being sold. I think it's easy to sit back and think, well, but they are expensive, obviously, but they are accessible, and they are being made to basically emulate what a star looks like. So the average star being big boobs, small waist, blah blah blah. We've just been into that. So as well as having labia inserts where you can pick what type of labia you want your doll to have, which is absolutely bloody crazy when you consider the damage that has already done to girls and the perception of what a labia is meant to look like, as well as men's ideas on what labia is meant to look like. When we have men out there that genuinely think that labias are changed based off of how much you've had, and if you have a large labia, it means you're ran through and you've had so much. And men not understanding that the appearance of your vulva and your labia is absolutely nothing to do with. I had a genuine comment once that was like, so you're telling me that going in and out of a woman all the time isn't going to affect the size of her. I don't know what education is doing, but I'm telling you right now, it is failing our society. Because why do we have men that believe that 31 night stands is different to having sex with your man 30 times? Absolutely crazy. So the least thing we need is dolls now to further perpetuate harmful standards for women's bodies. Absolutely crazy. As well as, nipple standards. Who would have thought that there is a beauty standard for your nipples? I mean, what a insanely degenerate idea that a woman's nipple is something that you kind of concern yourself over. I saw a TikTok once that was like, there's nothing more scary than finding out what nipples your girl has or something like that. And I commented on it and was like, what is wrong with you addicts? Yeah, what's so terrifying that you're about to see a pair of tits for the first time, and the first thing you think is, does she have puffy nipples or is it perky ones? Let me tell you, I'm really worried about this. My brother, if you're seeing a pair of tits, just be happy to be there. So with these robots, you can pick what skin tone they have. I don't think we need to go into why that is also absolutely concerning and disturbing and just wrong on so many levels, but you can also pick whether they have puffy nipples or perky, a variety of different nipple types, which I can't believe we're saying those words, that there is such thing as a nipple type. Who gives a really? And another thing, talking about unrealistic bodily expectations with these dolls, similar to is their ability to be contorted into all sorts of positions. So many of these dolls, you can put their legs way above their head, which again is linking back to the expectations of women to be able to contort into all sorts of positions and to be held in positions that, quite frankly, no one wants to be held in, and are only in for male viewing pleasure, because more often than not, it isn't about women's pleasure. It is about the degradation, objectification, and humiliation of women. And what's more humiliating than being pushed and shoved into a variety of different positions that are, quite frankly, really uncomfortable to hold? And if all of that wasn't disturbing and scary enough for you, they are working on making the skin warm up so it is like real human skin. So when you're touching it, you don't feel like you're actually touching a robot, which, if you don't want it to feel like a robot, then, you could consider real human interaction. And if that doesn't sell it for you, they have models that can replicate a vaginal organ them. So I'm guessing the inside of the robot contracts around your junk. Now, aside from all of the damaging societal aspects of all of this, would you actually feel safe putting your in a robot that emulates a... Would you feel safe doing that? I don't have a... and I wouldn't want to put my in a mechanism that contracts in any form. So I genuinely, the appeal is, I guess I'm not the target audience. So I watched a video called Rise of the Robots, which is something that The Guardian had published on their website, and needless to say, I wish I could share it with you, but I will literally have my account banned. I'm not allowed to have my 100k plaque because I accidentally didn't blur out part of Belle Delphine's soul once, and now I'm on 217k and I still don't have my 100k plaque. So I don't want to give them any more reason to hate me, so we'll just stick to me telling you about this video. So one of the creators of these robots describes the robots as existing to be the perfect companion, which I feel like there's so many thoughts going on in my head, it's quite hard to kind of compartmentalize them. But, you know, perpetuating this idea that a doll is the most perfect companion you can get, completely obviously characterizing real women as imperfect companions for whatever reason, really actually boiling down to personality and the ability to actually think and feel, because the only difference between these dolls, these robots, and women is that we have a heart and, you know, a conscience, and it's that then that these men don't want to have as a perfect companion. To them, a perfect companion is someone who looks like a woman, feels like a woman, like a woman, but doesn't think or feel like a woman. And to them, that is a perfect companion, which I guess we can all decipher why that is wrong and disastrous and going to lead to further issues that have already created. And in this rise of the robots, or whatever the it's called, it talks about how, although, you know, these dolls are described as existing to please men, they do actually disagree with men occasionally, but that mode is meant to be humorous and funny. So they have one example where the guy who creates the dolls speaks to the doll and says, "Hey, do you mind if I sleep with other women?" And she replies in an angry way and goes, "No, haha, what a stupid question." And the idea of them responses is nothing but for entertainment. And I think that's funny that they don't want a woman. They don't want to sleep and be around real women because what? They're too emotional, they're too hysterical, they're this and they're that. But you will have modes for your entertainment that emulate what you believe to be a woman's personality, which in this case is argumentative and dismissive, which kind of further narrows down why these dolls are ideal, because it's not just the fact that they look good and they're the perfect body type, because like I described before, they have for that. It's the ability to control, contort them, use them, treat them how they want with zero consequences and zero verbal backlash. Although, in this case, where they do have the ability to disagree and argue back with their human owner, their argument is for people's entertainment, and it is something that they can choose to put that mode on. So, in simple terms, the doll is to look good and feel good, and to only disagree when the man who owns the doll allows them to disagree. Sounds healthy, right? Sounds like definitely healthy-minded people want to use these dolls. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Now I've kind of set the scene about these dolls and how you can pick their skin tone, their nipple size, their boob size, their lip size, whatever. I wanted to talk about the people who make these dolls and their idea of why they're making these dolls, because the creators of these dolls like to sell this idea that actually these dolls are for lonely men. These dolls are solving issues, and these are just to make men happy, which is a similar argument we've heard time and time again when it comes down to oh, it's just, you know, it keeps men happy. It's just what men do. It's no big deal. When in reality, I think it is a very big deal. I think these dolls are infinitely more concerning than the industry. I think these dolls take everything that is wrong with the industry and they put that on steroids. So one of the men that makes these dolls said that these dolls weren't designed to distort a person's reality to make them treat others how they treat the doll. But I think that is an absolutely brain dead and stupid conclusion to come to. And not only do I think it's stupid, but I think it's purposeful. I think it's playing stupid to be void of any accountability, because there is no way on earth you can genuinely sit back as someone who makes these dolls and say that there is no moral issue with them. And when people do that, it's because they want to obviously sell these dolls dolls to people under the vision that it's not disgusting, degenerate, and weird, and only lonely freaks do it. Actually, it's normal and it's the future and it's perfectly okay for you to do it. Of course, they're going to sell that reality. That's exactly what directors and producers do. They sell the reality that this is just something that men want. This is just something that men do. This is something normal that we should all accept. That's what the industry has done since the dawn of time. It has forced the normalization of it so far to the point that when people say, hey, I don't like the industry, they look at you like you've just murdered their kid. And what the aim is with these dolls is to normalize them to the same standard of the industry. So when you see these people sit back going, this is just technology, this is just the future, this is the beginning of them basically saying, we're going to try and make this as normal as we can because there is money in it. You know, if they can figure out a way to make these dolls not cost thousands of thousands of dollars, then they have yet again another multi-billion-pound industry like the industry, which will never go away. One of the creators of the doll said that their goal wasn't to create this distorted reality, but their goal was to make these dolls for people who are lonely, and so people can actually interact with somebody, and for people who just can't interact with people. Now, I don't know what that means when the guy said, oh, these dolls are for people that can't interact with people. What are we talking about here? Because I think this is for lonely men is playing into the male loneliness epidemic. But these dolls have been around before this whole male loneliness epidemic stuff came out. But this idea of the male loneliness epidemic, there's obviously a term that's come with it now, but this isn't a new thing. This has been floating around in the manosphere since day one. This idea that women aren't sleeping with men on purpose to punish them, and women have it easier than men because we can have as many partners as we want, and whereas men struggle to meet women. This idea is what helps sell these robots, okay? This idea that, oh, some men are just lonely and they're never going to meet women. This is not helping them. This isn't tackling the root cause of the issue. They're selling these dolls under the idea that actually they help men. They help men with loneliness issues. They aren't helping you. This is making you worse. The same with the industry. Oh, well, it's just for men so they can jerk off for, men that can't actually have. You're probably lowering your chances of meeting real women by staying home and jerking off to. And like the guy, the creator of one of these doll companies said, it's not just for intimate reasons. These dolls aren't just to be intimate with you, but it's for companionship, which yet again, if that doesn't show you that this whole doll AI approach to the industry isn't based off of filling a gap in the market for the people who talk about male loneliness and how women have it easier to have than men do, I don't know what will make it more clearer. One of the guys even says that he thinks it will help humanity and fill voids in their lives, which again, it's the same. It's crazy how parallel these arguments are between the robot industry and the AI industry, as well as what we see in the corn industry. It's the exact same argument that it's filling a gap in people's lives. But interestingly, was meant to be filling a gap in men's lives, and has been around now for God knows how long. So if that argument is correct and that pixels on a screen is to fill the void for men, then we wouldn't surely be in a position where we need these robots. And the answer is, my friends, that it is playing on men who feel isolated from society and playing on the men that talk about the male loneliness epidemic. It is playing on the men who are insecure about feeling alone and want somebody. And that isn't me shaming these men. I mean, I'm shaming the act of buying one of these dolls. I think that is absolutely ludicrous, but I also feel bad. I think these industries are targeting men rather than addressing the real problem, which isn't, hey, men feel lonely. Men feel like they need human connection. Let's make dolls of women where they can literally design their woman to be how they want them to be, to the nipples. That's not a solution. And if these men were already struggling to meet women, can you imagine how further unlikable purchasing one of these dolls and allowing them to indulge in this delusional reality that that is your companion? Do you think that is helping them? These creators do not care about men's loneliness. They see a money grab. They see an industry that is still early, I think. This is still an early development. Now, I know that they do actually have these robot brothels in some countries, and I think that is terrifying alone, and I'll get onto that further down the line too. One of the more disturbing things that I researched into, and something that a lot of these defenders of the dolls or creators of the dolls like to talk about, is the narrative that these dolls aid men in not women. So I'm going to read this out to you because this is exactly what the guy said who has developed one of these dolls. Women experience and abuse. This is something that could help people move away from that so that they are not so angry at their wives. This is a creator of a company who make dolls. I don't want to treat you guys like you're stupid. I think we can all understand why that is deeply disturbing. I mean, this idea that dolls are the medicine and the tool to fix the crisis that we have and the abuse that many women are facing. You know, I think especially now, like if we look at the prevalent topics of what's going on in Sudan and in other various countries where there is an absolute epidemic of women being victims of violent crime and abuse, and this idea that, you know, a simple doll is going to absolve society of these issues is not only insulting to many of the victims that are out there now, but this idea that these dolls will absolve our society of and abuse is just, quite frankly, an insulting comment to make towards women. He says that these men can be angry at the doll and beat the doll, and that should be fine because the doll can't feel anything. And then goes on to say that these robots will help them and talk to them and calm them. Now, I don't know if this guy has something mentally wrong with him, because anybody that genuinely says that has something wrong with them, right? I think we can all agree. Dolls are not the solution to, first of all, and abusers, but also something we'll talk about soon, pedophiles, right? Now, this is an argument that has been used since the dawn of time, that dolls or certain types of pornography can be used as a tool to help these violent men. It isn't true. It is something that people use to try and make themselves feel better, something that people will use to defend these types of industries, but it is simply untrue. People will defend these dolls as saying that they are a masturbatory tool like women use, which again, if you genuinely equate a warm-skinned, interchangeable doll as being the same as a dildo, I think you have some rethinking to do. And most importantly, the best way to summarize this is that these dolls, even though they are perpetuated to do so, do not stop culture, but in fact promote it. And anybody that tries to convince you that, like with oh, well, in some countries, actually, save it. Genuinely save it. And these robots are not preventing violence, okay? It's like the same argument that barely legal help stop actually touch kids. That is a load of absolute. And in Gail Dines' book, and she discusses how she visits three, I'm trying not to use certain words because I'll get flagged, but 3 male offenders of underage people, and they discussed how they didn't start off watching CP. They actually started off watching PCP, which is pseudo CP, which means barely legal type content. And they talked about how that was actually a bridge into the real CP. And in fact, the tool that people like to talk about, which was the PCP, the pseudo CP, aka the barely legal content, was something that they started on and then became desensitized to, so then they moved to the real thing. Saying that these dolls are going to help stop abuse is, I think it's an insult to all women. I think it is scary to think that that's the mindset of some people. I mean, this guy links, the anger emotion to and abuse as if normal women are, real human breathing women are almost responsible in their victimization, in being abused, because, these men are being made angry by their wives and that's why they're being. A bit of a concerning statement to make, but also not a surprising one for someone who develops unrealistic dolls instead of, spending your time on maybe solving what people describe as the male loneliness epidemic. If you're wondering why I keep looking down, I'm just referencing my notes. This is a very long, chatty video, as you can tell. The defense of these dolls is the same, like I said, that we see in pornography, in that it's just a little bit of fun, it's no big deal, it's a tool, or it's this, it's that, whatever, which is a huge oversimplification. What it comes down to is that the creators of these dolls don't care about the effects it has on women. They don't care about the effects it has on men. Now, I know I talk a lot about how this will affect women, because God, it will. It also goes without saying that this will affect men too. This is just giving a temporary solution to something that is going to build up in society, which is not addressing why do men feel lonely? Why do men feel like their only companion is a doll? A doll that just can't have any human thoughts. So instead of addressing why men can't function around real women, why men can't have and form healthy relationships with women, we say, well, it must be the woman's fault, so let's take the human aspect of the woman away, give men a doll that looks like a woman but just can't talk and react to anything they're saying. It's like directors of the porn industry. They don't care. There's money in it. I mean, these dolls are bloody expensive. Do you really expect them to care? And I don't think that there is even any denial from these people. Well, I mean, they try. They say, it's not immoral, it's helping men, it's doing this, it's doing it. None of that's true. I think what's even crazier is the fact that some of these companies don't even try and hide the fact that they are catering to a rotted brain, in the fact that they are promoting these dolls as having resistance mode. So one company, True Companion, made a robot with a resistance setting where when you make advances, she basically tries to decline you and says that she's not interested. And then you can, as the owner, still have sex with that person. And like the guy said previously, oh, this will help. No, it won't. It will not do that. It will not do that. Anybody that genuinely thinks that allowing to a doll is helping women is, first of all, that's offensive, very dehumanizing. But second of all, do you think that it's all about is not just about men wanting to come? That's not about that. It's about degradation, it's about power, and it's about control. And men are not going to feel like they are powerful and in control over a doll. Maybe the first time, after a very long time, they're going to get greatly desensitized. And if anybody wants to deny that desensitization is a real issue, then you are living in a fantasy doolally land. When we look at the industry, the porn industry, and why it's so bad, it's because we're looking at the fact that over the years we've gone from Hustler and Penthouse and Playboy to hardcore gonzo, which is rough, violent, depicted often as being unconsensual. Why do we now have crazy scenes where you've got like 5 men and 1 woman where they're like pissing all over her, when we used to just have women showing their boobs in the Playboy magazine? Because of desensitization. Desensitization, which is ruining people's brains, ruining people's minds. These robots are not separate from that. They're not exempt from desensitization. Men aren't exempt from feeling desensitized when it comes to robots. They're not. Believing that, allowing men to play out these illegal, violent crimes on dolls rather than women as a solution is a dangerous mindset to have. And it's just grossly inaccurate. So I've kind of finished my 40-minute now rant about these robots and my opinions on them and how I think that it is scary. I think I haven't seen many people talk about this, and I think it is just scary. It's sad. I think people should be a little bit more open-minded when trying to defend this, in the fact that, again, we don't see women where are these interchangeable male robot bodies that are really, really expensive to buy? Where are the ones where it's like, oh, you can give them 10-inch and like a 12-pack and they never play on their video game? Like, we don't see that. And therefore, I don't think it's fair to say that these dolls aren't misogynistic. I mean, I think other than the fact that it's grossly obvious that they are misogynistic due to the fact that they're literal objects, just the whole mere concept of them is rooted in misogyny. That's why they're female dolls and not male dolls. People acting out here like women don't have needs and fantasies. So we can't talk about, oh, well, men are just horny. Women do get horny. So let's not play it down to just purely drives. I think this is the perfect time and video as well, as I've mentioned AI a lot of the times, and how AI plays into this is that a lot of these dolls use AI technology. That's what's making them become so technically advanced. A big concern that I've had for a very long time when it comes to AI is the use of creating images of people without their consent, and I don't really understand how the law is ever going to be able to tackle that and keep women safe and keep children safe. I don't think this is something that a lot of people have really thought about as deeply as they should. I haven't spoke about AI much. Obviously, I'm not a supporter of AI. I know the environmental damages that it has, but obviously my interests are mainly peaked when it comes to the use of AI in the industry, just because that's, what I'm passionate about talking about. But my fear now, coming kind of off the record, not talking about just research and facts and all of that, is coming from the heart. The reason AI terrifies me is because I picture things. Even for myself, I see things. I imagine certain scenarios and how I'm going to feel when they happen to me and my friends, and how we're going to get to a point. That trend on TikTok where it was like Jake Paul is like a fairy, or HS TikTok is like a gay man, and everyone was like, ha ha ha. I don't think people realize that, yes, it might be a little bit funny when you see, HS TikTok, a homophobic man embracing a gay man in the AI world, like, haha, funny. If people can make really accurate videos of Jake Paul putting on makeup, or HS TikTok as a gay man, they can make very, very accurate videos of you as a woman in compromised positions that you don't want to be in. The idea that people will be able to generate content of you against your will in any situation is terrifying, and I don't think many people will, care. I think there are a lot of people out there that won't care. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't care about the industry in general. Why are they going to extend their concerns to women being exploited now via the use of AI? But as a creator, I find it really scary, especially as someone who is vocally against the industry, purely because I know it's a pattern that I have realized with my time on YouTube, is that me being so against the industry is almost a bit of a turn on for some men. That's why I get so many people on my DMs asking me to actually do pornography or to start an. So it does worry me, I think, the availability now of AI and being able to do what you want with anybody. I think that it's disturbing, and I don't think we can even begin to wrap our heads around the effects it's going to have, because it's happening as we speak. We haven't experienced it fully yet. Yeah, that's I've fucking spoke for 45 minutes. But that's my thoughts on this subject. A lot of people have been asking me. I know some people don't like these talky videos, but I feel very passionately about these subjects because it's something that's affecting us all, and I think we should give our time and thoughts to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, it took me quite a lot of research, and a lot of brain cell power has been lost, so please do give me a comment, give me a like, and if you did like content like this, definitely subscribe, because I like to do stuff like this. This is my all right, I'm gonna leave now because it's 9:30, and I will see you guys in the next video.